Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gander Gardening with Dawn. And if this is your first time here, thank you for checking it out. On this channel, I like to share things that are going well in my Gander, Newfoundland Zone 5A garden. And the hope is that someone may get an idea about what may do well in their garden if they are in a similar zone or climate area. And that is what this video is about today. It's about 7 hardy geraniums that have done really, really well here in my garden over many years. You will not see that Geranium Rozanne is on this list because that one is so popular and it's everyone's favorite and it doesn't need any help from me. So I decided to focus on 7 that are not quite as popular. So if that's something that you're interested in, please continue watching. And if you have a suggestion as to a geranium that I really should have in my garden and I don't, let me know and I'll try to find room for it. Thank you. Here is a lovely patch of Geranium magnificum, which is known as purple geranium for obvious reasons. And this is a very, very pretty, beautiful purple with hints of violet and also very, very dark veins. And this one enjoys a little more shade than some of the other geraniums, so it's doing really well here in the company of this hosta and this much, much larger hosta. And the only drawback with this one is that it just blooms for about 2 to 3 weeks. And in my garden, at least, it doesn't rebloom. But it's still very, very pretty. And it gets to be between 2 and 2.5 feet tall. And the blooms on this one are larger than many of the other geraniums, and they are more in clusters. So when it does bloom, it definitely has a presence because instead of single blooms being scattered about, it has clusters of blooms. And yeah, this one's very pretty. Purple geranium. This is a very unusual geranium compared to the others that are in my garden. This one is called Splish Splash, and it's a geranium pratense, and it's very, very tall. Uh, if I show you how large and tall these plants are, they're at least 3 feet tall, a little taller than that, I do believe. And they're just now starting to bloom, so they're the latest geranium to bloom in my garden. And they have the most unusual markings on each of the flowers. And I think that is the charm of them, that each one is different from the others. And it blooms for quite a long time once it gets started, but it doesn't start blooming until in early July. And if you look really closely, you can see that there are many, many more buds. So this one will have lots of flowers, yet it is just barely started. Geranium Brookside is a very, very pretty geranium with larger purplish blue flowers than most. The one drawback is it isn't quite as hardy as some of the others and can die back in a cold winter. This is a patch of big root geranium. That would be Geranium macrorrhizum. I don't know if I said that correctly, but it's something like that. And this one is not the prettiest geranium, but pollinators love it, and it can grow in almost any condition, including dry shade that exists here underneath these big trees. So I recommend this one, not for a spot in your garden where you want something that is particularly pretty, but for a spot in your garden that might be difficult and not many things will grow there. This one will be in bloom for about 3 weeks. In fact, it's now going over a little bit, and many of these blooms are spent, but I do recommend this one for difficult spots. Here is a really healthy patch of a hardy geranium known as Biokovo. And at first glance, it looks like it's white, but if you look closely, you can tell that the flowers are actually a very, very light blush, and the stamens are a slightly darker pink. And this one is easy to grow, very hardy, and it can cover quite an area. So probably the only caveat would be that you may have to keep it in check, because it can definitely develop into a fairly large patch. That's great if you want it. And if you don't want it to get too crazy, you can pull what you don't need out fairly easily. And I recommend doing that in the fall, cutting it back and pulling out some around the edges to keep it in check. And I definitely recommend this one. Absolutely covered with blooms, and it's about 1 foot high and will bloom for about 4 to 5 weeks. Here is a fantastic patch of Geranium sanguineum. The common name is bloody cranesbill, and this one has really bright kind of pinky purple flowers, and this one will bloom for a really, really long time. This particular one is at the front of a fairly sunny border in my front garden next to a Francis Williams hosta, and it's in front of some Shasta daisies, which will be in bloom later. And this particular geranium is strong enough and upright enough to hold back those Shasta daisies and keep them from falling forward too much. I highly recommend this one, and in the fall I suggest cutting it down a fair bit to keep it in check, because it can get a little too big. Here is a thriving patch of wild geranium. That's botanical name is Geranium maculatum. And this one is native to eastern North America. And it just showed up here in my garden one day, and I am so glad that it did. This fantastic geranium gets to be about, in my garden, about 2 feet tall, maybe even a little better. And it is absolutely covered with these beautiful bubblegum pink simple flowers that are just so cheerful. It's covered with these from early summer until early autumn. Just incredible. This one is number one for me in geraniums.